In this video, we're going to talk about using unweld edges, and we're also going to create copies of different sections of a form body in Fusion 360. Hey everyone, this is Matt with Learn Everything About Design, and in this video, we're going to talk mainly about unweld edges, but we also want to talk about copying and reusing portions of a form design. So if you want to follow along, you can go to the link in the description and you can download this data set. This is just some sort of shape that I made really quickly, and it's supposed to represent some sort of handheld device. So it's a plastic part. There is a parting line or a seam right in the middle, but it's still one form body. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about unwelding the edges. We're going to talk about copying entire form bodies, portions of form bodies, and what are some of the right and wrong ways to do this, or some of the pros and cons. So to get started, I'm going to select the entire body from the browser. We're going to right click and copy it. You can also use Control C on a Windows machine and Command and C on a Mac. And then in the bodies folder, we can paste it. Again, Control V if you're on a Windows machine, or Command V on a Mac. So now we have two exact copies of the body. Now, this is an important step because everything we do in the form's contextual workspace is destructive, meaning there's no history. We're not capturing everything we do, which means that when we copy a body, I can make changes to it and it doesn't affect the original. There's no link to the original. So when we make copies of bodies, we want to be extra sure that this is the version of the body that we want, or potentially we can just play around with different ideas. We can make a copy, make some changes, and decide which version we like. In this case, I'm going to assume they're both the same. However, I want to split the top and the bottom in two. So to do this, I'm going to go to Modify and Unweld Edges. I'm going to double click on that creased midline or parting line. And now I have a top version and a bottom version. Now, if I hide one of those, let's go ahead and hide the top, you can see it's still a surface and it still maintains the original shape. So if I bring back the original, you can't really even tell there's a difference here. I can move that entire body down just a little bit. And again, we can bring back this and you can see it's exactly the same. So this is a great way that we can, again, take a design, maybe potentially make some changes, or split it top and bottom. Now, with a design like this, we have to think about things like thickening versus shelling or splitting the body later. Because there is a draft angle or some sort of angle here, thickening is going to use the normal direction of the surface that it's thickening, which means that it's not going to have a nice clean interface between the two parts. So in this case, it's actually a little bit trickier because it's already planar. It's probably easier just to use a line and split the solid body. But again, that's not quite the point of this video. Next, we're going to talk about copying faces and pasting them, and kind of some of the pros and cons, or the do's and don'ts. So when we want to copy faces of a form body, we simply just need to select them and copy them. However, there are, again, some problems that you run into. So for example, if I select these faces, do Control C and Control V, you'll notice that the result looks a little bit different. Now, this is partially because of the way that forms are generated and the way in which their curvature is calculated. These edges, this boundary here, is not going to quite match the boundary of the edge that we selected. And that's partially because there's more geometry here that is driving that. Now, there is a way to get around this, and that's to select all the way up to this crease. Now, if you try to do this before, if you do a box select and you try to do Control C and Control V, nothing happens. And the main reason nothing happens is because we have edges selected in addition to just faces. Now, it doesn't work. You can't copy and paste edges. You have to have faces. So the way to get around this is to go to our selection filters, turn off select all. I'm going to leave select through on and only allow it to select T-spline faces. So now when I box select, I'm only getting the faces. I can do a Control C and Control V, and now I've copied the entire top. Now, once again, because the top does have this creased edge, we don't have the same problem that we did when we copied this body here, which has this sort of squared off shape. So if you are working on a design like this, let's say it's an injection molded part, you want to make sure that you do go all the way up to something like a creased edge, or that you select the entire body to copy it. So essentially we've done the exact same thing two different ways. We've used modify and unweld edges, and we've also used copy and paste to get the exact same thing. Which way works for you is obviously going to depend on whatever you're modeling. If you're modeling something like this that has a completely flat sort of midsection, it's probably easier to turn it into a solid and then split it up in the solid tool set. So for example, it's already going to be on a plane. So I'm going to say split body. We're going to split this body here, and we can select a plane. Or if it's not laying on a plane, we can create a simple sketch. In this case, what I'm going to do is just create a horizontal line. And we want to make sure that we project a point. So I'm going to hit P on the keyboard, and then I will snap those two together. Now, for the split body tool, I can use the body as the body to split, and I can use the line, allowing it to extend. And now I've turned this into a top and bottom version. So you can see I can hide the top. Now I've got something where I can come in and I can shell this a certain amount. Now I have a consistent wall thickness plastic housing. So again, pros and cons to each way. It kind of depends on what your geometry is, but hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on how to copy, reuse, and even unweld some of your Fusion 360 forms. If you have any questions, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.